you shechter or sell it. So for stealing, you pay double. For shechting and selling, you pay a total either 4 or 5 times, depending if it's a shoyer or a tzoyin. And the Mishnah says, what happens if the 2 witnesses said that you stole it, which means you have to pay kefil. And then there's only 1 witness that says that you shechted it, or you are moide yourself. Then you don't pay the 4 or 5 times, you only pay the double. So the Gemara yesterday wanted to know, isn't that obvious if there's only 1 witness there that you don't pay? A witness cannot make you pay at all. So we answer that the Mishnah is trying to equate the case that you're moide to the case of a single witness. And that is, a single witness, even only 1 witness came to court. If tomorrow another witness separately comes to court and gives the same testimony, we'll combine the 2 witnesses and we have a set of 2 witnesses now. Same with your Haidah. If you're Maida and tomorrow 2 witnesses come along and say, yes, you did shechted, you're going to have to pay for the shchita, because Maida beknas, where we say you're potter. But if achekach bo edim, if witnesses come tomorrow, then you have to pay the knas. And we explained the logic, and that is, according to that opinion, is because when you're made in knas, the reason why you don't pay is not because you're potter, it's because we cannot charge you. Knas is a new chiv. You don't owe for any particular purpose. We're the ones who are charged the bezin to be able to levy it upon you. You can't. So therefore, if tomorrow Eidim come, that's a different story. Then the bezin through his process will make you pay. And this refutes the view of Rav Huna in the name of Rav. So that's what we did yesterday, and we're up to the Gemara now. We'll continue now this Rav Huna Rav, and we'll see that there are many who hold like Rav, and there's another way of learning the Mishnah, as we'll see later. Says the Gemara, Gupfa, let's analyze it. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav, Moide Beknas. You were Moide, Ba'achgar Bo'edim, Eidim came along, Potter, you are Potter. Eisevei Rav Chiza Rav Huna. Rav Chiza says, Rav Huna, I have a problem with you saying that if Eidim come along later, you're Potter. Ma'asid is a story of Rav Gamliel. Shesim, he had an Eved, a slave called Teddy. We had in Gemara Brachas, we had him in Gemara Sukkah. In Gemara Sukkah, Rabbi Gamliel was so proud of the fact that Tubby went to sleep under the bed because an Eved is potter from Sukkah. But everybody else should not be under a bed because it blocks, intercepts the schach. So Ma'asim Gamliel, Shesim saying Tebbe after he blinded him, and he was rejoicing. But so Rabbi Shua found him. So he said he was so happy. What was he happy? Because now that Rabbi Gamliel is happy. He's happy that he blinded him because now his Eved is free. Now, why is he happy? Because Eved is free. So why didn't you just set him free normally? Because we learned in Gittin, it says in the pasuk that you're not allowed to set free your Eved Kanani. The big machlek is a Rashba there and others, whether it's early men, whether it's Mahat Torah, whether it's Midrabanan. So either way, he didn't want to set him free, but now that he hit him, he was happy. And it sounded like he struck him by accident, which in itself is a little bit of an issue because we learned before you have to have kavana. When you say that Shem Ayin the ever goes free, you have to have intended to do that. But regardless. So he told Rabbi Shua what happened. After he went free. Rabbi Shua said, why did you go free all of a sudden? I blinded him. Amalai said, now remember, it's a knas. This is a knas that you blind your Eved, you go free. Amalai said, your Haidah is worthless. At the moment, you have no witnesses. And Moide Beknas is Potter, which means that you didn't, the evidence, you want to free the Eved, but you'll be over your Avera. You can't say, automatically it's free based on my admission, because Moide Beknas is Potter. And at the moment, there are no witnesses. Even though we use the word kavar here, and some people actually admit the word kavar, we don't mean you didn't have witnesses. I mean, presently you have no witnesses. So says the Gemara, so Rabbi Shua in first net. Sorry, Rabbi Chiz in first net. But if there would have been witnesses, or witnesses will come tomorrow, then be chayiv. So we see clearly, moide beknas. The achekach bo edim, you are chayiv. We're in the bottom of the page 9 on the base. We're discussing about moide beknas, and afterwards edim come along. Do we still say you're a potter or you're chayiv? And Rabbi Huna said the name of Rav said you're potter, and now we're trying to bring a proof that you're chayiv. Because Rabbi Shua told Gamliel that your Haidah, that you gouge the eye of your Eved is meaningless at the moment because I know Edim to support it. As if to say, but if tomorrow there were Edim, then you'd be chayiv. Then what you did is right, and so we see that Moed Edim, you're chayiv the knas. So Shamina Domil from Edim chayiv. Amalei shiny like Gamliel. This case is different. The loy b'fnei bezin oide. They met in the street, and because they met in the street, therefore, it's not called, in order to be considered a Haidah, it has to be done in front of a bezin. Nothing to do with the fact whether Eidim tomorrow or not Eidim. Even if there were Eidim tomorrow, and even if there were no Eidim ever, his Haidah is not a Haidah. So what Rabbi Shua Bezin have? Rabbi Shua was he's a walking Bezin. So let Bezin have a coin. No, no thing is a walking Bezin. You could be the Av Bezin, but only when you're sitting in your position is it a Bezin, a Mokum Bezin. Otherwise, it's not a Mokum Bezin. So if you remember, we had a Mishnah in Brachas, and the Mishnah Brachas says that Rabbi Gamliel's Melkabel Tanchumim when Tavi died. When he died, people came in Nachamavu. And the Gemara said, "What do you mean? You're not Menachamavu. It's a possession. It's a property. It's not you're not Menachamavu." The Gemara says, "Shiny." The Mishnah says, "Tavi was different because he was Adam kosher, which means he never set him free." So in other words, he listened to what Rabbi Shua told him, and he did not set Tavi free, even though he was an Adam kosher, Talmud Chacham, which he was, and all that. He couldn't bring himself to be over Elamem Tavaydu. Okay, so the big machlekes are showing the Ramban and the Ravid and others about today. We don't really have a bet. The din is today we don't collect knossos, but we learned at the end of the first Bava Kama and the Rosh and all that itafas like mefkidim, that even though we don't pass knossos, but if the victim grabs a hold of it, you don't take it away. So the question is today. So the Ramban says that today, since we don't have a bezin, everything that happens is like chutz lebezin. So, so the question is, if today a guy comes forward, I did something which deserves a knas, but I'm made to it. Is that considered made a knas and you're a potter or not? So the Ramban says because we don't have a bezin, it's always as if you're a chutz bezin. There's no hoidah, so therefore there's nothing that patters you, which means the other guy can still grab it from you. Yeah. It's a big enough commitment. The other guy, walks by and takes whatever it is because, yeah. And the Ravid says no, that your hoidah is a valid hoidah, and itafas, it's your moida, you are potter. The other guy can't grab it. Grabs it, we'll take it right back. And yeah, back to the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Vahatanya, and he told him, Amalai. We said Vahatanya either we learned in another brayse. In another brayse we learned that Amalai. She said to him, "Aim but v'recha klum shekvaradisa." That since you are moide and moide beknas is potter, and because moide beknas is potter, even if Adam come afterwards, you are potter already. Therefore, if you are potter, then you have no right to free your eved. We're not going to penalize you because moide beknas is potter. So in this version of this brayse, kvar hadisa means that once you are moide, even though Adam come tomorrow, you're still potter. What's going on here? My love tonight. It seems that these two brides are arguing this machlekes. Hi, Tanya, you don't have aim currently. Tomorrow, Aiden come along, you be chayiv. Hi, Tanya. Both of them agree right now that you're not chayiv. You have no right to free him. But is it because right now you have no Aiden, or because now that you made it, doesn't matter if Aiden come anymore? The second bride said, the the second bride said, but you already made it too late. So this is very the question of Rabbi Yuna Barav is a machlekes. This is very halacha. Lo no. Rabbi Yuna Barav will say, "Kuli yamun moed in potter." Everyone holds you a potter. So what do you mean when the second brayse when he says, what does the first brayse mean that right now you have no edim? Ubahakami, we'll tell what the argument is. I tana damash kavad eiluch edim that currently have no edim. So he holds chutz lebezin have it. He holds it's not a hoidah. Moed bekanas potter, and even if any come later potter, that's halacha. But only if you're moed, only if it has a din of hoidah. Exactly. So exactly. Had you been made in bezin, then even if Aiden Katamari be potter. What he meant when he said there's no Aiden, he meant there's no bezin here. There's no process of a bezin here. What do you normally do with a bezin? You bring Aiden. There's no bezin here. And once you made a suburb, it was tak in a bezin, but you're potter forevermore because once you made it's a ptur. Eat what we learned. Now we can try to understand. Finally, the machlekes. Even we learned. Rav says you are potter. Shmuel says you're chayiv. My time that why does Rav say you're potter? No, but he holds that when you're moed b'knas, the reason why you're potter not because that that the bezin has to find you guilty of yourself is because it's a confession. Like we said yesterday, it's a form of tshuva, and therefore, why give a knas? My time that Rav, you live in pasuk. Says in pasuk, im he matzeh to matzeh hagneva biyad. So if you matzeh biyad hagneva, so remember we learned before in the beginning of this payday that we dash in him. That's how we know gan b'chal is kefil. Because where does the Torah say kefil by a shemer? We had two psukim by a shemer where the shemer claims, and we had a machlekes the both psukim by Shemer are talking about Toya Tainas Ganda, where the Shemer says, look, it was stolen from me, turned out to be he was a liar, and we'll make him pay double. So then if that's the case, we have no pasuk, straight out Ganda if he pays kafel. And you cannot tell me because of Kalbo Chaymer, because then we have a problem. Then you should be no different than a Shemer. A Shemer is only Chayiv, it makes a shvur if he swore that he didn't have it in his possession. So a Ganda shouldn't have to pay double unless he swears I never stole it. So therefore we needed a pasuk, and we went to Tons of Echizkiah. He must say, is talking about the Ganav himself. By the Ganav, then he pays kafel. But in the other way, learning is that he must is not talking about that at all. And what do we do with Himatze here? Imi Matze, this is Hadashin. Imi Matze be'edim. If you're caught via witnesses, then Timatze be'dayan. Then we'll go to court, and the Dayan will find you guilty and make you pay double. Pratla Mashiach Atzmai. But if you found yourself, you came forward and you confessed that you stole it, then Bezin will not levy this kafel. Says the mother, well, lumbly, what I need this extra pasuk. The court will find you guilty, and then Yishal Shnayim B'Reyu. So only the court can do that. So if we read, why don't you two psukim tell you the same thing? That must be one is talking about that even if Eidim come later, you're potter. Shmuel, Shmuel will tell you, Shmuel holds that. So what do you do with the second pasuk? I learned that the Himatzah is like we learned in the beginning of the Pedic, is it talk to you about a Ganav himself. Like Chizkiah said, we're talking about how do you know that a Ganav has to pay kafel, and then we have all these protim that to give you the car all that, but even me. Okay, Shmuel, and I will say Shmuel, I have a question here. You say Moide B'Knas. That's a question. It says Ra Eidim You saw, you're the Ganav. And you saw that witnesses are preparing to come to Bezin to find you guilty. So what do? You ran to the Bezin ahead. He went to Bezin and he said, Ganafti, Amoide Maganif. Now, this is a case of Moide B'Knas. But he adds, but I didn't do the next stage. I stole, but I did not shech. From the kafel, but I did not steal it or thing. Ain't a mashal ken. He pays only the principal. I might have been knas. There were Eidim coming tomorrow. Might have been knas. I go in potter. So is it clear like I went on or so there's a kash and Shmuel. On Malay, so Shmuel said, "How my skin?" And you know what you're talking about over here? He's going to chazru Eidim lachere. That the Eidim did not ever front up in Bezin. They didn't change their mind. When they saw this guy was major, they walked away. That's why. When we're talking about, when Tony Sefer, it says later on, Rabbi Loza, but Rab Shimon Aimer. How can you tell me the Eidim never fronted up? That's what you're telling me. It says clearly, Rabbi Loza, Rab Shimon disagrees. He says, Yavayu Eidim v'yidu. Let the Eidim come and testify, and it makes no difference. Miklal, the Tanakama Sabar, loy. So Rab Shimon Loza says, let the Eidim come, sorry, and he will have to pay. That means the Tanakama holds that the Eidim Taka came and he's still potter. That I to me from the Tanakama that Shmoidi B'Knas, and afterwards Eidim come, you are potter. So Gemara says, Amalei Shmuel. So what do you want? Lav Ikar Abelazar Shimon the Kaikavasi. Okay, the Tanakama like you, and I hold like Abelazar Shimon. That is that if Eidim come tomorrow and say that you are gone, if you have to pay. Anodam Nikir Shimon. So the Gemara says, Lishmul, according to Shmuel, there's no way, there's no option. Vadet Tanoi. According to Shmuel, he has no greater to learn that Abelazar Shimon is like him. That if you made the B'Knas and after Eidim come, you have to pay. But the Tanakama clearly says that you don't have to pay. So obviously Tanakama cannot hold like Shmuel cannot follow Tanakama. He's past things like Abelazar Shimon. Or the Rav. Does Rav also have no choice but to learn that Abelazar Shimon agrees with Shmuel? Me lema Tanoi, well he says Tanoi. Rav will say to you, I know the Amri, I believe that everybody agrees with me. So what's Rabbi Shimon saying that anyone can come and he'll be found guilty? I can't let come Rabbi Shimon Hashem. You know what Rabbi Shimon said? In that case your door's worthless because you saw the Eidim were coming. That's much. Here you saw the Eidim were coming. So the only reason why you came to court a day early is to get out of it. Exactly. So that's not called true at all. And that might be class like Eidim. But in a normal case, you came to Bezin Major. And then tomorrow, without you knowing, you even pop up, then everyone will agree that might be because that's a form of children. You are part of it. Not, by the way, this thing we're talking about children, I haven't seen that in any of them, but that's a chayda, that's the shot. The Rogachow is the one who tries to make the difference between Moed B'Knas is a Ptur, or Moed B'Knas means that you just can't incriminate yourself. A person cannot incriminate himself. But the husband, and we're giving, I'm sitting here, but that makes sense in the whole Gemara then. Why, if you knew Aiden were coming, your Haidah is worthless, because that's not true. You're just being a smart aleck. But if you did not know Aiden were coming and you step forward, that's clearly what about the we're talking about we're talking about according to the opinion that says the other one says you're a chai because he said this, because there's only one pasuk, and the pasuk is only telling us that you cannot incriminate yourself. It's not going to be true. True is the only way you can do true is paying money. Sometimes it has to cost, it has to hurt you before you can, as we'll see anymore, that it has to hurt before we say it's a proper truth. In fact, this will explain the next Gemara as well, as we'll see. But if you're made on your own, after the blood of Hashem, made Rav Nuna says, now comes Rav Nuna says, Mistabra mil say the Rav. You know when the Ravs didn't make sense that you step forward your potter, but you said you stole it. So when you said you stole it, what did you do? You actually, it cost you money now because you have to pay the principal. Even though you saved yourself the penalty of double, but you have to pay the principal. So when your confession came at a cost, that shows that you took a contrite. You feel remorse because nobody goes over and gives money. So if I'm going to give you let's say the principal is $100, so I'm going to give you $100. True, I saved myself the other 100, but I'm giving you $100. My dog cost me. That's the tshuva.
What's the cost of returning the loss?
If the item is around, let me talk about it, then you have to give it back. We're talking about even the item's not around, I got to pay you money. So even if the item is around, I can keep it. The fact that I'm giving it back to you, that comes when it hurts the kesher, then it's real.
Isn't the case that there's a Geneva and a Shkita?
At this moment, there's no Shkita, just a case of Geneva.
Okay.
Straight out Geneva. We'll talk about Shkita in a minute. Yeah. Why? Came at a cost. But if he says, I did not steal, Eddie came along and said he did steal. Okay, finish. End the story. You have to pay double. And then the Chazavah may turn around and said, right now, Shchita, you pay 4 or 5 times is a penalty. So I should be potter. But what did it cost me anything by me admitting that I shechted it? What did it cost me? Nothing. The whole thing is a knas. There's no principal part to pay. I'm going to be paying for the neighbor that could the aid of establish Amaganif. When I'm moided that I was tavech, it cost me nothing. That kind of haidah is meaningless. I made a potter. Shadi potter asked him, what did you pot yourself from? Nothing. All you try to do is get out of paying anything. That's not called the haidah. So when is it tshuva? As it says, as the Gemara says, if a guy, sheikh treifas, the only way to do tshuva is that he goes another place and he has a shiloh treifas and he did pot. But if it costs you money, then we know your tshuva is real. Without costing, it could be crocodile tears, and it doesn't mean anything. Talk is cheap. That's what Rav Hamnuna said. Omar Rav, big machlek is meforshim, and Rashi here and traces into your own traces. What exactly it is? So this was Rashi's version, and we don't have exactly all the words of Rashi by traces. So it is Omar Rav, kipachti. I had a question. Let's savi the Rav to the old people of Rav. No, it's Rav Hamnuna. I disagree with Rav Hamnuna. And the word kapachti means the way Tosis quotes Rashi is kapachti means that you call. He said, you're causing tzar to the Talmidim of Rav because they know that Rav holds moed b'knas like Harei and Potter in all instances, and you're coming and limiting it only when it comes at a cost. The Rabbi Gamliel. Look at the case we had before. Rabbi Gamliel pointed out some clue. Rabbi Gamliel, this is the Rashi's version. Rabbi Gamliel potted himself from when he said that the evidence is that I'm moed b'knas, that what do you call it? And this way, if he's moed b'knas, what happens? Then he's potted from doing anything. So it came at no cost. Because the only thing you have to do when you gouge the eye of evidence is set him free. But if you're moed b'knas, you don't set him free. So what cost did it come to him? Nothing. And yet, and yet Rav Chiza used that as a proof to Rav Huna, and he said to Rav Huna, you see, moed b'knas v'achar bo edim is Rabbi Yeshua who told him is not haidah. What Rav Huna should have answered is over there because it didn't come out of the cost. That's why it's not haidah. What do you want from Rav? Well, look, he didn't answer him. So Rav is refuting Rav Hamnuna's tzak. And now the Gemara will continue and bring proofs to Rav Huna. Itmon nami And Tais says, where do you find such a thing? Rava comes along, repudiates Rav Hamnuna, and then Itmanami. Itmanami sounds like continuation. But the way you Rashi are learning is Itmanami is contradicting what Rava just said. Therefore, and Tais said the word kipachti always means I overcame, I won him in an argument. So forget. The way Tais learns, Rava is supporting Rav Hamnuna. He's supporting Rav Hamnuna. And he's saying that Rav Huna is whatever it's the way Rashi learns. Rav Huna is much greater than you. Rav Huna, you're wrong because Rav Huna is much smarter than you. And look at traces, even though we learned the end of the first page in Hedron, Rav Huna was something special. Saba the way Rav was Rav Huna, and the way Rashi learns traces that Rav Huna, Rav was telling off Rav Huna. You should know that what do you call it? That Rav Huna is a lot smarter than you are. And what are you arguing with him for? Interesting. Rav Huna called Rav Huna Saba. He was a Talmud of Rav, and the Rav should have a discussion with him. How old would Rav would have been at that time? A kid, an adolescent maybe, and talks this way to Rav Hamnuna Saba, and he says, Rav Hamnuna Saba, Rav Hamnuna is smarter than you. Yeah, and Rav Hamnuna is smarter than you. Who do you think you are? Who talks this way? I mean, just forget about it. Let's forget about the Rashi Taisa. Just saying, in chronologically, it's very difficult to accept that that's the conversation he had. Anyway. Now let's support Rav Hamnuna. In fact, the halacha it says that all the poskim paskin Rav Hamnuna in halacha. So eat manami. This is the story. Ganafti, a guy came along to bed and said, "I stole." Uvog einim shaganaf. Einim came along and stole potter. Clearly, meide beknas v'achakar boedim is potter. So the chayav has mekeren, and just clearly why it came at a cost. But his dog came with a cost. Aval Omar, but if he would have said. If he would have said, I did not steal. And a boy ate in Shagana, and they came along and said, stole. And then the Chazam Tavakrim Mechati, I shechted, which cost came at no cost. Avoid his dog Chayiv. So he put that he pat himself from nothing. He only wanted to pat himself without having to pay anything. That's not called Haidah. Supporting, so here's an opinion from a Maida that agrees with Rav Hamnuna. Amar Rabashi, Mas Nisin, Ubraisa, Namideka. I'll bring the knife from Mishnah and from a Braisa. Now we learned in our Mishnah, what we just said before. You learned yesterday that you stole based on 1/8. He was made in you pay the double, but you don't pay the 4 or 5 times because only 1/8 that said you stole it, or you were made that and made the Knas's potter. Now that we asked the question, Lomali Tony Gunner so he asked now a question. Why do you have to break it up into 2 cases? You stole based on 2 aides and then Tavach Macha. Just say that Gonaf v'Tavach Macha al Piedechet. Just put a bunch of them all together and say, if an Eidach comes along and says, you stole, I come forward and I'm made, I stole, whatever. And an Eidach comes along and says, you stole, you shechted, you sold, an Eidach is the whole thing. And then say, you potter. Or you al Piazza, or I'm made, ain't a Mishalom, and all you pay is a Kerem. Why do you have to make it 2 separate cases? Make one more case out of it and say, if an Eidach said you did all this, then you are potter. And if you did and you did a piatzma, you pay Keren because you made and the Keren, that's it. You don't pay any of the costs. Elalav, how come the Mishnah tell you, Gonav al Pishnayim, that the Mishnah's Chiddush is you stole, established by 2 witnesses that you stole. And then the Tovach al Pi'edecha Piatzma, and then you shechted based on yourself, or we know that you shechted based on a single witness. That's when and that's when we say that you are potter. That's when we say Yechayiv. You know why Yechayiv? Because your Haidah came with no cost. The loy mechayiv atzma bekeren, because it came at no cost. I mean, we say al pi atzma dum zapi eidechad. So we say, look, since it came at no cost, that's why we're medayik in our Mishnah that if tomorrow Eidim will come, you'll have to pay. Not because Meidim beknas va'achar bo Eidim you are chayiv, you are potter. But in this case, you're chayiv. You know why? Because there's no haidah. You know why there's no haidah? Because it cost you nothing when you admitted that you shechted it. What did it cost you? Where's your contrition? Nothing. And therefore, ki asi eidechem is tada b'hadim mechayiv. Al piatz v'nami. Same thing for your moeder. Ki also eidim. Tomorrow, witnesses come along and say chayiv. And say that you shechted, you had chayiv. Are you a moeder? And we hold like Rav the moeder you are potter if eidim comes afterwards. Only when it comes with a cost. If the Gneva was separated from the shechting and we've established your Ganef, and now all your moida is that you shechted it cost nothing, Haidah is meaningless. But if Ganav the Tavach Machra Pedach, you used everything only if you did everything based on a single testimony, or on yourself. The chayiv atzma keren. In this case here, you chayiv keren. Then it will be different. Then we would say that even if they come afterwards, you talk with potter. Then al pi atzma dumyad al pi erecha. In that case, we would not say that you're like eidech. You don't have to pay. But al pi atzma. In this case here, by eidech we say if tomorrow an eight joins, another eight comes along and joins, they would form two eidim. You would have to pay if two eidim come. But if you were moide, gonaf tavach hamacher, if you were moide, and then it came out of cost because you have to pay the principal, and tomorrow eidim come along and say this is what you did, you don't have to pay anything at all because moide beknas the achakabo eidim where the haydah came out of cost, you are potter. So now we've answered the Mishnah according to even Rav can work out the Mishnah if you follow Rav Hamnuna. But I said, where's the Braisa that supports Rav Hamnuna? That the only time Haidah is considered Haidah when it comes at a cost, only when you're Maida on the Gneva part. But if you're Maida merely on the Tzvicha part, when it costs you nothing, that Haidah is meaningless. If Eidim come tomorrow, you have to pay. That's how the Braisa. Ro Eidim Shem Mashiba. You saw Eidim coming. You said Ganafti to get out of it. You said I stole. But you said clearly I did not check. I did not sell. Then you only pay the keren. Why do you have to add? What's the gay here? I didn't shech, I didn't sell. Just say I stole. Let him say. Let this Braisa just say. Ganafti, I tavachti, macharti. What do you have to say? What do you have to say that loy tavachti, loy macharti? How come they teach you? Time. The only reason why the Haidah is considered a valid Haidah, the Amar Ganafti, because he included in the statement that I stole and it came at a cost. The Chayvatz Mekeren, because it cost him money. That's why he's potter. And if they come tomorrow, it was a Haidah. It's a real Haidah. Aval Amar Ganafti. If he says for he didn't steal, and then Voedim Shaganov came along and he didn't steal, and then V'chazmama he's made Tavachti Mecharti, and then Voedim Shetov Macher. The lechayv atzah bekeren, since he didn't, when he was made that he shechted it cost him nothing, then chayiv. Then he has to pay because that's not called a haidah. If there's no haidah, you got to pay based on witnesses. Alma haidah tzricha l'avodah. If you only made on the tzricha, it's not called haidah. In order to do tshuva, it has to cost you money. Amri, lav haidah. Amri, I can say loy. So it's a kasha on those who argue for Rav Hamnuna. Amri, we can say no, it's not really a reifement. Loy, he go for commercial. I can say the kivan, the ganafti. You could not argue and say that since they know the Bryce is trying to tell you here. You want to know why he says loy tavachti v'loy macharti? They'll tell you the Bryce is saying here. The kivan, the amar ganafti. The moment he was made, there was a gana. I forgot, even though the amar loy tavachti v'loy macharti. Uvo Edim, and tomorrow came along Edim, Shemachar v'Tavach, and denied and contradicted part of what he said. You said you didn't shech, they did shech. Potter, you want potter. L'chayda, why are you potter? No, why are you potter for dollar? You said that you stole, which was made a biknas, which means that what? That you don't have to pay the double. But you said I didn't shech. Came along Edim and said you did shech, which means you can't get out of it, right? You have to pay. But what do we know? You pay 4 or 5 times includes principal, double, kefil, and then an additional 2 or 3. But there's no kefil in this case here because you were made. And Bava Kama and the Gimel Dalal. That's the Kiddush. Nothing to do with Rav Hamnuna's din because it has to come at a cost. You want to bring a compelling right from me? I'm telling you, I can argue with Rav Hamnuna and say that no, that even if it cost me nothing, my hadah will be worthless. So why does the Braisa say over here that I did not shecht and so? What's the Braisa trying to tell you? He's trying to tell you that if Adam come tomorrow and said you did shecht and so you would think that you would have to clear, you would have to pay, even though you weren't made it that you shechted. Forget you denied that you shechted, and Adam came and said you did shechted. So always you follow the Adam, but here you won't pay. You know why? Because there's no kefil.
But in the case where he's made it to the Geneva,
yeah,
but he doesn't, he's not made it to Tovah Hamaka.
That's what we're talking about.
So why the base didn't tell him to bring the animal back?
No, he died. He said it died by itself. The animal's dead. We have no proof otherwise.
And then they determined to say,
or it'll say the animal was stolen from me. That's not where it is. Or the animal wandered away. Yeah, so you might my time, why? 4 or 5, but not 3 or 4. Let us say that this idea that if you're made, by tvicha or by mechira, whether it's considered hoida or not, is what is if it comes at no cost, is that considered hoida or not? Maybe it's a machlekes tonight. Okay, halka. Hayu shnayim meidin shagana. Two people came in and said that Shimon ganved from Reuven a behemoth, and then v'hayu shnayim meidin oisa shetova chumach, and then they also said that he's shecht. Who's mu'edeg neva? Now, what happens? We have two sets of eidim, whatever it is. One is that he ganved, and one that he shecht. You mazim ve'edeg neva. Well, we no longer have any evidence that he stole it. So does he still have to pay for the tvicha mechira? No, because if he didn't steal it, maybe he shechted his own animal. So there's nothing to pay. Eidus, it's not about the kula. Okay, so the whole eidus falls apart. Even the second period, even though they weren't found guilty, but there's nothing to talk about because if we don't establish a stolen animal, so what if he shechted an animal? Maybe he shechted his own. What about fakir? Who's mu'edet tvicha? If the only ones that were Muslim found liars were the second pair of Eid, the ones who said about shchita, but the Eid neighbor is still there. Then who mishal shul kefil? Then the Ganat pays kefil because the valid Eidim say you're a Ganat, and the hey mishal metashlu mishleisha. And the second pair of Eidim were found false. They wanted to add another penalty of 2 or 3 times. They have to pay that. Straightforward. Comes along Sumcha, and this is the problem. Sumcha's L'chayda sounds like he says exactly the same thing. So we have 2 cases. There's the Reisha and the Sefer. The Reisha is where the Gneva, the Eida Gneva were found Muzamin, and they were found Zaymin. And then we say the whole thing falls apart. And then the Sefer is where only the Eida Tvich were found Zaymin, so that part falls apart, but the first Eidim stand. Comes along Sumcha says, hey, Misham Shom Kefil, they, the pay Kefil, the Eidim pay Kefil, and who Mishalim Tashlum Mishleisha. The par and he pays 3 for the cow and for the ox and 2 for the rat. Now, what's Shmuel? What's he coming to argue? Sumchas. Ahai koi sumchas. Ilay ma reisha. On the case of the reisha, where that we knocked out the first edim. We knocked out the first edim. The chachamim say there's no edus after all, and he's potter for the tzvich mechira because edus should bottle mixas about the kula. Sumchas disagrees, and he says, no, you got to still, since the edim were not found liars, you got to pay the 2 or 3 times, and the edim who are false who try to make you pay for the gneva, they pay the gneva. Lastly, in this case over here, it doesn't agree that there's nothing. How do you know that he shechted a stolen animal? What are you charging him for? The sefer must be in the sefer, but isn't the same? The sefer was a what? That was the only day tzvicha were found guilty. So the Shapir Kama Rabban are right. Okay, so the first Eidim were found correct. So he's a ganef, he has to pay the double. And the hey Misham and the second period we tried to make him pay for shechting, which turned out to be a Bava Maisa, so they have to pay that. So what Sumchas is saying is echoing the words of Chachamim. What's he coming along to? Must be there's a third case here that Bryce forgot to mention, which is so odd. Here you have a machlekes, and Dafka the thing that machlekes you forgot to mention what the Tanna Kama says. And must be another case here, and it goes as follows. Going to Osubay today, 2 witnesses came, and Amralei, they said to him, Ganafta. They said, you stole an animal. Amalahu, and he said, yeah, I made it. In Ganafti, I made it, I stole it. But then, so that part, his idea is meaningless because the Eidim obviously are the ones who are demanding it from him. But he then goes a step further. Now that I'm in the mood of confessing, I'm going to go a bit further. I actually shechted. Now there's no Eidim that says otherwise. So the Chayr is a Haydah. But it's a Haydah that came at no cost. What did it cost him? The animal stolen, he was caught by Eidim. The Tavachtim Lecharti comes at no cost. What's he giving for that? I'm Eidim, and therefore what? So if I want to be potter. Right? So it came at no cost. That's what Ramanunda said. That's not called the Haydah. Says the Gemara. He goes further. I didn't steal in front of you, but I see sad. I didn't. But one thing I'm going to tell you is, this is what I did. I stole it, but you were not the ones who saw me steal. I'm made it. I'm a ganef. And we're Eidim.
Trying to get out of the case.
So he said, but you guys are liars. I want you to know that you know better than I am. I'm a ganef, but you're liars because you weren't there. The Icy Sadi, and he brought witnesses. This ganef brought witnesses. Azminu. All these, what he brought was not that the Shimon didn't ganef, but those guys weren't there. Then
that they have to pay.
Oh, one second, this is a complicated story. The Bala boss heard that the ganef as Adim that knows these guys weren't there, but he was made. There probably were other Adim around. So the Icy Balabai Sadi, the Balabai then went searching for Adim. Okay, Sunday didn't happen, but Monday he made it. So anybody saw? The Asi debate, the God of came along Adim now and said, you stole and you shechted. Now,
But the cat's out of the bag. He was made.
yeah, she was the stealing part, even though the first Adim turned out to be liars, but he knew there were other Adim that he knew that he was a Ganef. So therefore his Haidah is not really Haidah. Because what prompted him to be made the first Adim, even though they turned out to be false, but there were other Adim who knew. So therefore his Haidah for different Haidah. But his Haidah for Tvicha Mechila, nobody asked for it. But it came at no cost. So the Chachamim say, Uvaidah the Tvicha, that's the Machlekes Rabbanan. The Machlekes Rabbanan hold, Africa, the dog named Machmas Adim, the Kamoida, Taka, he was prompted by Adim, that's called Haidah. Or Haidah the Tvicha Haidah. But the second Haidah, when he shechted, nobody asked him for it, so it's a proper admission. It came at no cost. So what? In other words, we don't follow Rav Nuna. We follow like Rava, we Rashulins. Upata. And Sumchis holds, Kiva the Haidah, the Gneva Matmas Edmu, the Kamoida, the Tricha Lav Haidah. Then the Haidah, which is also not Haidah. The Hanach Edem Kamoid, as Minu Mishama Tashuni Kefu. That what? That the Edem, this is not called a Haidah. And why is it called a Haidah? Because it came at no cost. He didn't, his Haidah meaningless. No, it's like a Rav Nuna. He has to pay since his Haidah is worthless, so therefore he has to pay. And now the Balabas brought Adim for everything. Remember, the Balabas brought Adim for Tzricha Mechida. His Haidah is a meaningless Haidah because it didn't come in the course. He has to pay. That's what the Gemara say. Kuli Alma, everyone holds like a Ramnuna, the Haidah, the Tzricha Lav Haidah. Everyone holds it's not Haidah. Why? Because it came at no cost. Okay, it came at no cost. Ella, you know what they're arguing here. The Eidos Shei Atu Yochel Hazima came for this. One more step in this story here. And they're arguing if you cannot contradict Eidim, is that a valid Eidos or not? If you go in, for example, this is the story. The Asa Sadi Varm Leganaf. Okay, the two Eidim come along and say, Shimon, you're a Ganaf. On Sunday you stole an animal. V'amalu Ganafti, yes, I stole. Vita Vachti, Umacharti, I did all that. And it was made to the extra. I didn't stay in front of you, but then he added, in the first version of the story, he just said, it didn't happen when you were there. The second version, he actually nominated the people who saw him do it on Monday. But I see Sadi, and then he brought witnesses. He brought those two witnesses and said, guys, Sadi.
He's on Tuesday.
Right. But the loiba pai gonov, he didn't stand in front of you. But also plenty vasi debate, and then the Balabas hears about it, and he has the names. Oh, he calls these witnesses, guys, come back. You forgot the second half of the story. What happened on Monday? What happened on Tuesday? Vasi debate the gonov etavach umacha. And now the machlekes follow. Everyone agrees that when you're murder, if there's no cost, not hard. But no, the issue here is these Eidim now are bona fide Eidim. In what way? Because the Ganav himself says these are my Eidim who saw me steal. Now the din is, even if you bring Eidim Zaim now, let's say you bring Eidim Mazimin, that says to the second pair, you weren't there on Monday to see what happened, it doesn't matter, because he's saying I stole on Monday, and these are my witnesses. They can never be contradicted, these witnesses, because the defendant himself, let's say, he admits that that's what happened. So the question is, can you have Eidim that cannot be repudiated? You can never find them guilty because they buy a guy themselves made a It's not a valid Eidus. And Sumcha says no, Eidus have Eidus. It is Eidus. So the Gemara, but we have a rule, the Eidus have Eidus. We always say that Eidus you cannot repudiate is not an Eidus. How can it be a machlekes? Because that's the checks and balances. You always need checks and balances. Hani Mili Sumcha says, when do we say that Eidim that can never be verified is not a valid Eidim? We don't know when it happened. Eidim come in and say, we know that Reuben killed Shimon. Can't remember what day the week it was, what month it was, what year it was. So they can never be found liars. That's not about. There's no checks and balances. As Gemara Pesachim said, the 7 questions of Yud. So we have to narrow it down in order to be able to, that they themselves should know that they can be caught out, so they have to be very careful and say, be accurate in their evidence. They'll let it cloud. Over here, so you comes over here. Here, the Baldover, the guy of himself, is saying these are my Eidim. Then it doesn't matter whether you can contradict them or not. Okay, we'll stop over here. And we'll continue. Oh, no, actually, there's two more dots, two more lines. Sorry. Omar Mari, let's just finish. Omar Mari, you just said, sorry. Hein mishalmin tashlumi kaiful. You said that the Adim that what do you call it? He has to pay kaiful.